This is a basic training video for people who have their hosting through Subtle Network Design through the snhost.net service. Depending on what version of Outlook you have, these instructions will be different, but I'm just recording this on the current version of Outlook that I'm using here in the office. If you're familiar at all with Outlook, you probably won't need this video, but if you're not, then I just wanted to create a resource so that it would be easy for anyone to create an email account within Outlook. Basically, what you're going to need to do is add an account. There's several ways to do that, but in the version that I'm in, there's a button under the Files tab for adding an account. Once you click on it, you'll come to a window that's similar to this. What you're going to want to do is manually configure the server. Once you click Next, you're presented with some options. We're going to set this up as either a POP3 or an IMAP. Go ahead and click Next. Your name basically means the name of that displays when you send an email. So when somebody receives an email from you, the name is going to be the who it says it's from. So typically what we do is we put the person's name and then we put the business name. This is what we do in-house, but you can do whatever. You can just do your name, or you can do the business name if it's a general email box. And then the email address. The account type, the basic difference is the POP3 is going to download the files to your hard drive. And with an IMAP, the Outlook is going to go and check every time and is going to sync essentially with the remote email box. Depending on what your needs are, a POP3 or an IMAP can work. The only thing is, if you set it up with an IMAP or a POP3, in either instance, you want to make sure that you're downloading the emails you want to keep off the server at least every few months, so that you don't have information sort of growing infinitely on a remote server. But for this example, we're going to set it up as a POP3. There really isn't any difference between the steps for a POP3 or an IMAP. So both the incoming and the outgoing server needs to be mail.snhosts.net. Okay, and the username is going to be essentially the email address, but what we're going to do is we're going to switch out the @ sign with a plus sign. So for the email of sample@subtlenetwork.com, the username is sample plus subtlenetwork.com, and that'll work for your email account as well. And then the password is the password that was assigned when the email account was created. And I think I remember the password. You want to remember password. Now, for our email, what we need to do now is we need to click on More Settings. Okay, and the outgoing server does require authentication. Okay, but the login and everything is the same as for the incoming mail server. Okay, and then if you go to the Advanced tab, here's your incoming port and your outgoing port. The incoming port for a POP3 is at 110. For an IMAP is something different. But whatever the default is, go ahead and leave that alone. The outgoing server, regardless of whether or not you have an IMAP or a POP3, needs to be set to 26 instead of 25. And then there's some leave messages on the server. This is a way to help make sure that the files on the server are pulled down after a few days. So that way, you know, if you receive an email in the last 2 weeks or last month or last 2 months, and you go to the webmail, those emails are going to be there, so you can access those remotely. Setting up with an IMAP is slightly different, but I usually, you know, try to think about that when you set this up. You know, how often do you want the files to download? The default is every 14 days. I usually kind of extend that out to 30 days, maybe 60 days. And essentially all that'll do is make sure that it pulls it off the server, so that your email server doesn't become too full. and then you click OK, and then you just simply click Next. And it'll run a test. Let's see if we did it, and we did it correct. And so that's basically it. There's numerous resources. If you just type in how to set up Outlook email, there's a million different tutorials out there. I just wanted to do one specifically for my clients. So that should be all you need to do. If you have any questions, of course, give us a call, 727-446-5851. We appreciate it. Talk to you soon.